Work on police reform, and some are meeting with family members who lost loved ones in use of force incidents. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
The brother of George Floyd joined other police reform advocates and attorney Benjamin Crump in meetings with key lawmakers negotiating police reform legislation.
They got to hear directly from the families whose blood will be on the legislation that is being proposed.
Crump says South Carolina Republicans Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham listened intently. Scott is leading Senate Republicans in talks with Democrats on a bill expected to address use of force and transparency in law enforcement. President Biden wants reform enacted by the one-year anniversary of Floyd's death next month. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. The president, meantime, is visiting Georgia, taking his jobs and family's plans on the road. Also meeting with former President Jimmy Carter. The driver in a fiery van crash that killed 6 people last weekend near Atlanta is now charged with multiple counts.
Gwinnett County Police have booked Monica Manayer on suspicion of 6 counts of homicide by vehicle as well as reckless driving. Investigators accuse her of making an unsafe lane change while driving passengers in a van, most of whom were part of a sober living group. They were on their way to a recovery meeting. The van flipped over on I-85 and burst into flames. Passing motorists stopped to try to help pull people from the wreckage. 6 women were killed, and the 10 others inside were injured. The police report indicates, though, that witnesses told them a second vehicle unexpectedly changed lanes in front of the van before it crashed.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Indictments just announced against 8 people in the alcohol-related death of an Ohio college student found unconscious after a frat party in March. The charges range from hazing and assault to involuntary manslaughter. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't let the challenge of creating mobile apps stall your business. Building apps takes time, special skills, and a lot of money. Fortunately, with Sodi Snap, you can unleash your inner developer by allowing you to build and deploy apps fast. You don't need to be a software developer, and you don't need a lot of money. With Sodi Snap, you can create apps up to 10 times faster than traditional methods. Leverage Sodi's free app prototyping service. Visit sodi.net/Fox for a free trial for Fox News radio listeners. That's SOTI.net/Fox.
More than $100 million in medical supplies from the U.S. are on the way to India.
U.S. Air Force launched 2 cargo planes full of badly needed medical supplies from California bound for India. A coronavirus outbreak has led to thousands of deaths in recent days. In a tweet, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said oxygen cylinders as well as N95 masks were part of the aid package. USAID delivered the supplies to Travis Air Force Base located outside San Francisco. The White House said India helped the U.S. when its hospitals were strained early in the pandemic. Now it's time for the U.S. to help India. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
India is having a record surge in COVID cases, topping 300,000 new cases per day. The French president laying out a new 4-step plan to reopen his country, including the return of outdoor terraces for cafes and restaurants in May, along with museums and theaters under certain conditions, though France's case numbers and hospitalizations remain high. A new poll finds many Americans support athletes and teams speaking out on issues.
Remember when there was a strong separation between sports and politics? Not anymore. A poll conducted for Seton Hall University by YouGov found that the majority of Americans support sports teams, leagues, and players using their influence to affect social change. Among poll questions, should teams and leagues use their influence? 48% said yes, 36% no, the rest undecided.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15% to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
North, an extremely vocal opponent of gay marriage, drew fire during his 2010 re-election campaign for saying that the legalization of gay marriage would lead to man-horse marriages. In one instance, he told the New Haven Register, quote, "It's a slippery slope. If we allow two men to marry, what's next? Men marrying horses?" But yesterday, North found himself at the center of a media firestorm when the New York Times published photos of North on what appears to be romantic outings with a horse. Gathered during the Times' 2-month investigation, the pictures show North in almost a dozen locations with the same 3-year-old mare. A former aide discovered links to numerous horse-related sites, including phillyfreaks.com and hothindquarters.com on North's work computer. The Times is accusing North of using federal funds to pay for luxurious trips, including a 3-night stay at the high-end Sueños stables in Catalonia, Spain last month. North released a statement yesterday claiming he only spent time with the horse twice while conducting research for his anti-gay marriage project.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live, the Saturday night edition. The telephone number for you to call in is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Open phones as always. You can call in, talk about whatever you want to talk about. We generally talk about things from the perspective of freedom, peace, prosperity, and that type of thing. Some would call us a libertarian show, although we do have non-libertarians that host and co-host. So we're not exclusively libertarian in that respect, at least not with the capital L anyway. In the studio tonight, it's myself, and do we have the Intergalactic Space King?
We do. Can you hear me now?
There he is. I've also taken the liberty, no pun intended, of posting up some facsimile marks here in the studio to point the camera at. So those of you who are watching on our video streams, whether that's Twitch or DLive or Vaughn or Facebook, or I think we're on Aria's YouTube channel still, you should get the full effect, as if, Mark, were actually here in the studio.
Here I am.
Indeed. And since we're doing, some technical things, I just want to check with you, Mark, are things functional on your end?
Yeah, everything seems to be working out. I just want to know whether or not my audio is feeding right. Am I too hot?
No, actually, but don't change anything on your end. I'm just going to bring you up here a little bit. Can you just give me some more talking?
Yeah, sure. No problem. I've got all kinds of show prep in for tonight, and I know you've got some stuff too. We're probably going to be starting with Bitcoin things, but I've got an interesting article here from entrepreneur.com. It says McDonald's apologizes for understaffing. Nobody wants to work anymore.
Yeah, this was, I don't want to say it was covered. It was mentioned a couple of days ago on an episode of Free Talk Live. Yep. And, I see it around here locally. The fast food joints, when you drive by them, all of them are like, now hiring. When you drive in through the drive-thru or whatever, they have, come to work for us. And they, their marketing departments have put together these fancy websites to make it all easy for you to, try and check out and see if you can apply real easy.
Yeah, I think that things have changed in America a great deal. When I was a kid, lots of kids, including myself, had jobs.
Hey, me too.
I don't think young people are working like they used to.
Yeah, well, also, the government has created this sort of conundrum where folks have gotten unemployment extensions. They've gotten these stimmies, the stimulation checks.
Oh, yeah.
Some folks, the younger crowd, of course, when the lockdowns kicked in, they moved back in with mom and dad or whomever they've otherwise consolidated. Also, people can't really be evicted right now. And so whether or not folks are paying rent, they kind of don't have to work for the most part. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying a large number of people, particularly those who in other circumstances might be in the market to work at, say, like a McDonald's or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I started working at 12. I don't see a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, my first job was actually a sales job. I was maybe 11. I wasn't 12 anyway. And it was not really even a job. I used to get a magazine through the Cub Scouts called Boys Life. And in the back of that magazine was this advertisement for
Grit.
Well, no, not Grit. For prizes or cash, right? And they would send you just a catalog, and it was stationary is what it was, right? It was just like customized special designs. They'd send you a catalog, and the idea was that you would go around your neighborhood door to door, knocking on doors and going, hey, do you want to buy some of this crap? And people would inevitably buy some of this crap, depending on, how personable you were. And so I was able to make some money doing that. I didn't like it. I kind of hated it. I thought the product sucked. I thought their designs were crap. But I did it, and I made some money at it. And I was like, okay, well, if I can do this, there's a bunch of other things I can do. It gave me confidence to go and, eventually get like a regular paper route, the traditional ride your bicycle through the neighborhood kind of thing. And that made money that way. And then I got hired by a relative just for like one day a week on Saturday to do like 4 hours of work at this, we'll call it a warehouse for lack of a better description. And so I would get paid every week, whatever that 4 hours was. And it was pretty nice. I had a savings account and all that, although my parents wouldn't let me spend any of it.
Right. Make the money, don't spend it.
Yeah. Which, looking back now, good advice.
Right. I mean, he had everything paid for.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about this?
No. I'm interested in that article you have that you put up for show prep.
I am too, and I've been sandbagging and saving this one. And somebody else, actually, another host, posted it up for show prep as well just yesterday, and I was like, I knew it was coming. But this I put up because, well, it sounds really familiar, and I wanted to get you specifically, Mark, to be in on this particular article. So this is from Bitcoin.com or news.bitcoin.com. Alleged Bitcoin fog operator arrested for money laundering. Admin accused of mixing 1.2 million BTC. That's Bitcoin for the listeners who don't know what BTC is. What is Bitcoin fog, you might ask? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. U.S. law enforcement arrested the alleged operator of Bitcoin fog, Roman Sterlingov, in Los Angeles on Tuesday. Documents show Sterlingov is accused of laundering over 1.2 million Bitcoin via the Bitcoin fog mixer, which is a tool that allows users to mix transactions together. According to federal investigators, Sterlingov ran the operation for 10 years and processed $336 million in BTC transactions. So
that's a lot more than the 1 million that they're talking about.
The 1.2, right? Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So the U.S. government has charged and arrested a Russian and Swedish citizen, Roman Sterlingov. Apparently has dual citizenship.
Where was he?
He was in L.A. when they arrested him, Los Angeles.
Yeah, if it's easy for him.
Yeah. Ostensibly, Sterlingov was the lead administrator in the Bitcoin fog operation, which used a CoinJoin-based mixing tool to blend BTC transactions. Bitcoin fog could be found on Tor via an Onion address. For our listeners who don't know, Tor it's the Onion router, and it's where secret or hidden websites are. And so you need an Onion address to go and find it on this. Tor is a privacy-based tool to allow you to access websites that aren't publicly available. So anyway, Bitcoin fog could be found on Tor. It required mandatory registration and a minimum deposit of 0.01 Bitcoin just to use the platform. However, the registration process was not tied to an email and simply required a username and password. The U.S. IRS, Internal Revenue Service, has accused Sterling Gov of allowing money laundering without tracing any of the payments. Federal prosecutors believe Sterling Gov took around $8 million in Bitcoin for his services, getting around a 2% fee per mix on Bitcoin Fog. Sterling Gov is accused of processing 1.2 million BTC, which was worth around $336 million. Oh, I see. So the numbers, Mark, are 1.2 million Bitcoin. But the value of those Bitcoin is around 336 million at the time of all the payments, according to this article.
This is one of the reasons that a lot of the mixers are open source software where no one individual is making money doing it.
I mean, that seems to me to be the way to go, at least as far as following the philosophy of decentralization. We'll have
also not getting locked up.
Indeed. 603-283-6160. If you want to call, more Free Talk Live is on the way.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, it is Free Talk Live, the live call-in radio program where you can take control of the airwaves and talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number to do that is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and joining me remotely, it's
Mark Edge.
Woohoo! Tech is working.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just going to knock
really
on this.
Sounded good.
Going to knock on this mock veneer here that kind of looks like wood. I'm only stitious. I'm not superstitious, but you know.
So we're talking about a story here where a guy is charged and could potentially go to jail for a very long time for creating some software that allows people who have Bitcoin or I presume other cryptocurrencies,
absolutely,
to pull their stuff together, pull their coins together, and then extract the amount that they put in, basically kind of obscuring where their Bitcoins came from.
Right.
Now, and I'm not surprised.
That seems to be the idea.
If somebody who is a nefarious actor used this service. But I'm also wouldn't be surprised if just some people who didn't want anyone to know, anyone, not the government, but anyone, because Bitcoin's very clear and open for anybody to look. So what didn't want anyone to know how much Bitcoin they had or whatever the situation was.
Right.
And I'm not sure here in America, the land of the free, that it's a good idea to just lock somebody up because a bad person could have used their service.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm trying to think of is there a cash equivalent of what this service provided? I think it would be like if you had 5 $1 bills and you went to, I don't know, a store and said, hey, can I get a $5 bill for these 5 ones? And they gave you one. I mean, that's kind of the extent of it, right?
The closest thing you could say is like a Swiss bank account.
Okay.
Like there was a time in history when you could have a numbered bank account from Switzerland and do your business that way, and everything was fine. I'm sure some nefarious actors had those things, but did they send any of the bankers from Switzerland to prison? Because I don't think they did.
Right. Yeah, they're going after the operators and the creators of the service instead of the individuals using the service nefariously.
Right. Because they're the easy ones to catch. These are lazy cops doing lazy cop work.
Yeah.
We're not going to find the bad guys. We're going to find the people who enable the bad guys.
And again,
there was a bank robbery around the corner here, and finding bank robbers is hard. But we know that the bank robber bought his gun at this gun store. Let's go arrest the gun store clerk. That's the kind of nonsense we're talking about.
Yeah, and again, just to use a cash analogy, if the government were to do this to cash, right? There's some nefarious actor who used cash, right, U.S. dollars, for some nefarious activity, well, then they would be shutting down the Federal Reserve.
Well, the Federal Reserve is cooking up a new digital currency here soon, and I think that part of their crackdown on paper dollars is starting with their crackdown on Bitcoin.
Yeah. We hold that thought, Mark, because we'll talk more about this. We've got Robert calling from South Carolina. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to say that, before Donald Trump took over, just before, I happen to know what the figure was for people who would work if they could. That'd be about 104 million people, and there were about 155 million people actually working at that time.
Okay.
That means that there's a vast oversupply of people who would like to work, but there's simply not enough jobs for them. what the companies do is they put these little help wanted signs at the corner of their property, so it looks like there are more than enough people, and they get on the radio and they say, "Oh yeah, man, we need people really bad." But if they needed people that bad, they'd have tons of them. If they treated people right and paid people half decently, they'd have lines at the door. The fact of the matter is that they're speculating. They're trying to collect a whole bunch of resumes in their resume file, so when they finally do get desperate enough to hire somebody because they really need the person, because the business wouldn't work right if they didn't spend a little bit more money by hiring an extra person, then they look through their file and pick the person the absolute best in their opinion from probably the thousands of applications that they have that they've collected from people who've walked through the door for the months that they've had that little sign outside.
Let me stop you there, Scott, because you said that was when Donald Trump took over. I assume you mean when Donald Trump became president, right? Okay, so now that Biden is president, what has changed?
Well, the problem is that figure, how many people would work if they could? That's a very hard figure to get your hands on, because both parties don't advertise that, because even the party that's not in power is reflected upon by that figure, because of the fact that both parties to some degree are responsible for the fact that that we have a tremendous number of people who would work if they could, and they don't really want that known. In fact, they take trouble. They take their time and trouble to make sure that the only figure you really know is the number of people who are collecting employment compensation insurance at any particular point in time. But in order to get that insurance, you have to be you can't be fired for cause. You have to lose your job for reasons that are not really your own.
Sure.
And the other thing,
the article that we were referencing earlier, though, Scott, says. First of all, this particular restaurant, this McDonald's, put up a sign that says this: "We are short-staffed. Please be patient with the staff who did show up. Nobody wants to work anymore." And that's a quote. That's exactly verbatim what the sign said. The article goes on to talk about what Mark and I kind of said, just a little ad hoc, but it says, people are taking advantage of the stimulus money given by the government, the tax credits, the checks for prolonged unemployment, and they prefer to accept those benefits instead of going back to work. What's your opinion on that?
I've been registered with the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce, South Carolina Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, South Carolina Department of Mental Health, IPS section, that means Individual Placement Service. Mm-hmm. All of them have never been able to find work for me. I did find work with a big box store after I worked for them for about 2 3/4 years before I took off because I had hurt myself. They said to me that if they had known that I was involved in the technological kinds of things that with which I had been involved in Germany, they would have never hired me in the first place, because I was involved with Professor Dr. Knauer of Casey's University Dresden to fire a rocket that reached an asteroid coming space on a mission that took 10 years to get there. And if they had known that it had anything to do with anything like that, they would have never hired me, because they were afraid that they would have been afraid that I would have been bored with the job and I wouldn't have done it properly.
All right, your phone is kind of cutting out, Scott, so I'm going to have to let the call go. But thank you for the call tonight. We appreciate it.
So there's I can't remember what it's called. The government calls this rate something, and it's just slipping my mind. But basically, there's a rate of people who are working. Mm-hmm. And according to the statistics in 2020 during COVID, basically 51% of the population was working. More people are working now after COVID than have worked in a very long time in the United States. So I'd call that a good thing. And I think that there's some truth to what Scott says, and I want to address that.
Okay, we can do that when we come back. More Free Talk Live is on the way. 603-283-6160 for your comments.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
If you're looking for work, there's a piece of paper more important than your resume. It's the cover letter attached if you're snail mailing, or the email to which you attach your resume. Make it 4 short paragraphs. Paragraph 1, say that you're applying for work. The person you're sending to gets a ton of mail about all sorts of things. If you have a password, that's your first sentence. Tom Nelson tells me you and I should meet. Paragraph 2, what you do and how that relates to the opening. Be as specific as possible. Paragraph 3, why you want this particular job. I'm originally from Boston, so I know the market well. I have family and friends in the area, so this would be a homecoming for me. Paragraph 4, unless the job posting stipulates no calls, and I will call you to follow up. Thank you in advance for your time. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live.
The only thing that separates government from the mafia is their cloak of legitimacy. The government is nothing more than an armed gang of violent people masquerading as though they're something else. They've got these PR systems in place to make people think that there's something special about their armed gang, to make them not realize that that's all they really are. They've got uniforms, they've got robes, they've got courtrooms, they've got this aura, they've got flags, they've got pledges of allegiance, they run the schools, they run the roads, they're everywhere. So you think that they're supposed to be there. They've been there since you've been born, so they must always have to be there. Well, that's not true. They're an organized gang of criminals. You know how I know they're criminals? Because they're using force on people, and that's wrong. It's just wrong to force people to do things.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to Free Talk Live. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Free Talk Live is an open phones radio program. We broadcast on somewhere around 200 radio stations. We're on the internet, of course. We're on a bunch of different video streams, also audio streams, and a couple of satellite channels as well. So the amount of people that you can reach just by calling 603-283-6160 is a pretty large number, particularly on a Saturday night. And because I have been a terrible, terrible host, I am going to go to this unscreened caller. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's your name tonight?
Oh, what an unscreened Mr. Jet.
Hey, Jet. How are you?
Well, I thought I'd call in and ask you guys to to take a little quiz with me, a little vocabulary quiz.
Wait, is this like the setup when your girlfriend has the girly magazine and she's like, let's take the relationship quiz?
I've never taken that quiz.
Oh, well, good for you.
but I wanted to, because everyone has a tendency to, I guess, misuse certain words, and because words are supposed to have meanings, I've come up with a little quiz that will help you guys maybe stick on track with these things. You know how the arrests came in the invasion? We can call it an invasion, or what's another word for it?
I call it a terrorist attack.
Yes, terrorist attack. Well, there are many words that we use that needs to be converted to what they really are.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about, some people talk about authorities, for example. And there are certain words of these, like government and authorities and things, that really don't exist. These things don't exist. We think they do, but they really don't. So I'm going to ask you, what would be another word you could use for government?
Oh, I could use many words.
Okay.
Now, does it have to be a single word, or can it be like 2 words, or what are the requirements
it can be things like warlords.
Warlords, I like that one a lot because that is a far more accurate description.
One of the things I like to say is those who purport to rule us.
Yeah, I often use when I'm not using the word government, I tend to use rulers, masters, that type of thing.
Yeah, but I hear people talking about people getting arrested, and of course we should use what instead?
Kidnapped.
Kidnapping, and they're not
Lawfully
in custody. They're not in custody. They're being held hostage. Or
one of the things, if you look up the law on kidnapping, it will say the unlawful, and then it'll go on to describe what kidnapping is.
I know.
And
I know.
So what they say is that, look, we can do this. You can't. This is our monopoly privilege on the initiation of violence in a given landmass. We claim it for ourselves. And if you didn't turn over this monopoly privilege to a group of liars and thieves, I mean, that's what we know politicians are, then chaos would ensue. Like, it's amazing the breadth of Americans' gullibility. On one hand, we know politicians are liars and thieves, and we've seen it our whole lives. On the other hand, we're like, oh my God, chaos would ensue if we didn't turn over civilization to liars and thieves.
Right.
Yeah, but what are politicians?
Liars and thieves.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's use those terms, like taxation, for example. We should use extortion.
Yeah,
right?
I know the popular libertarian phrase is taxation is theft, but Jet, you're far more accurate to say that it is extortion because that is a more
under the
accurate
threat of violence.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as a society. There might be a paradigm, something people think in their mind. Law enforcement, of course, I call them henchmen. Or goons.
Well, hang on. Let's talk about society for a minute, because when I'm talking to people about, the ideas of freedom, I often say something along the lines of, there is a distinct difference between the organization known as government and society. They are not the same thing. Society is, in fact, independent of this organization.
What I'm getting at is we need to try to focus on individual words, because typically there are individuals or people who have grouped together as individuals in a gang that do these things against the rest of us. And that's the point I'm getting at. If we can focus down to the individual who is creating the evil, then and use those terms in description, then we can persuade other people. Because when we use the term government, we shoot ourselves in the foot. I mean, government to most people means good and necessary. So when you say good and necessary is bad or evil or something, it just messes up with people's minds and they reject it. Most people reject it. Of course, we don't, but you get what I'm saying?
I do indeed. In fact, I have been, at least by I'll say I don't like using the term normies or something like that, but like friends of mine who haven't found the philosophies of liberty and freedom, they're sort of still living in, the statist fog, if you will, for lack of a better description. They've accused me of speaking funny because I will at times. I can't bring myself for whatever reason to do it full time, but I will at times do exactly what you're describing, Jet, and I will use other words, and I will say like, well, of course, the masters won't allow you to do that. And they're like, well, you talk funny.
The word that's bothering me a lot lately is the word judge. These tyrants, these petty tyrants. I mean, they are ones who control other people's lives. Think of all the things that they're doing as far as we have to give our permission, the judge's permission to do this or that, or the judge can say, "Hear ye, I hereby give this person 1,000 days in hell." These people are truly maniacs, and that's the part, especially with this kidnapping and hostage taking that's happened recently. The judge is saying, "No, well, we're not going to do this or we're going to do that." It's just, who is this magical person, this sorcerer who has this somehow demigod power to just change people's lives? So we just need to use the right words.
I couldn't agree more, Mark.
Yeah, I'm. When we look at this, though, I think that people say, hey, look, judges preside over court cases. In many cases, a court case is dealing with a bad person who's done a bad thing. What do we do with bad people if we don't say that courts have power? Like, we know that courts don't actually have power. It's just a bunch of people collected in a room yik-yakking. And as we call half of them down where I'm from, liars. They're just a bunch of liars, and they're doing lying stuff. And like when you're when you're talking about a bad person, you got to deal with a bad person. Jet, how do you answer that?
Well, you certainly don't do it with one person. No one person has all the wisdom and understanding to be able to make these judgments. I just have never understood how this concept came about, that somehow everyone looks to this one person in this magic black muumuu that goes, I know all, I see all, I hereby pronounce that you are either guilty or innocent, or if someone else says you're guilty, then I get to sentence you to life in prison because you smoked marijuana or some stupid thing.
Right.
Just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I agree with you, and thanks for the call tonight, Jet. We appreciate it.
Well, here in the United States, we have another system than they do in most of the world. In most of the world, they actually, for a major crime, they'll have like a 3-judge or even more panel to judge what happens to the culprit or whatever. Here in the United States, we take a jury of 12 people who really know nothing about the law and just tell them, hey, figure this out. By the way, we're not going to pay you much.
Well, and that's not always the case, right? I mean, you have to go all the way to a jury trial because otherwise the judge has a whole lot to say. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. It is the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160, and our commitment to you is that you can call in and talk about anything that's on your mind. Now, we have things that we want to talk about, so we bring those in to have something to talk about. But you don't have to talk about those things if you don't want to. You can talk about anything at all. And again, the number 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and joining me remotely,
Mark Edge.
Woohoo! We've been talking about this story that actually comes from news.bitcoin.com. And we can talk more about that, where a man has been arrested for what appears to be operating a website. And it is related to Bitcoin, of course. But before we talk about that story, and we've got a call to get to as well, I wanted to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started right at the top of the page. Once you do that, you will find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. If you're already a knowledgeable crypto user, you can check out news.bitcoin.com to get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com. All right, let's go to the phones. We've got Jill calling from Virginia. Jill, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello. My idea of government is that it's not supposed to be used to initiate force. It's supposed to be used as man's tool for self-defense against force and also punishing after the fact. And the thing about it, though, if you don't have any government, then you just have gang warfare and Hatfield-McCoy-type feuds. But you see, with the judicial system, that way you can prove somebody is guilty before he gets punished. So that's what government's supposed to be for. But I don't think it should be for education and studying the mating habits of the fruit fly and all that other nonsense. And I don't think they should have a national endowment for the arts to tell people which art is good and which art is not, and things like this. I think most of what government does ought to be abolished to get back down to the basic function of it.
Well, I can tell you, Jill.
Financing it, I think it should be on a voluntary system.
Yes, Jill, let me stop you there, Jill.
Make it voluntary, and the incentive to pay it is
Jill.
If the store's open 60 days, whatever number of days in that locality, and the official goes and tells the storekeeper,
Hey, Jill.
well, you haven't made the arrangement to pay your law
All right,
enforcement.
hold on, Jill. Jill, you've hit the nail on the head when you said that whatever it is that they do should be voluntary. And yes, you're on hold right now. I don't know if you can't hear me speaking to you or whatever, but a conversation is supposed to go two ways. You say some things.
Really, her phone is sort of really
she does,
staticky.
Yeah, she does have a strange phone line. I don't know if she's calling from an old telephone or whatever.
Maybe hard for her to hear.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say was she hit the nail on the head when she said that whatever the government does should be voluntary. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? To me, government provides certain services or possibly even products. And I can't think of a product or a service that, if it's valuable, people wouldn't voluntarily pay for.
Well, I can. So, for instance, a lot of people believe that police are going to do what a private investigator would do. In the 1980s, every television program was about PIs.
Mm-hmm.
At this point,
they still
do you
are
know
for
a
the
private
most part.
investigator? Have you ever heard of one? Basically, they work for lawyers, and there's not very many of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because people don't want to pay for what may not result in anything, right? So if you hire a private investigator to find out, a thing, I want to find this person. Well, maybe they'll find that person and maybe they won't, but they want to get paid for their time.
Mm-hmm.
And say police officers, people expect them to go out and do some level of detective work because that's what we see on TV. But the chances are, if you've got some crime that is not like a property crime or something like that, they're not going to spend any time at all figuring out what happened to your car or your house or the burglary or whatever. They're just not going to.
But you're still paying for that.
Paying for what?
For them to not do anything or not find anything out, right?
There's lots of things for them to do, and the bar is low when it comes to government work.
Right, but when you're talking about, it sounds like we're talking about detectives or detecting, right? The art of going and finding stuff, right? Research, that kind of a thing. So you're comparing a private detective to a police detective, right? So if that's the case, in a free market, you might risk not getting any information or not finding the person that you're looking for by hiring a private detective. But you also have that risk going to the police. And you're still paying for it. You did pay for it. Your extortion money, the taxes they take, you paid for it. And you also can't be like, hey, Mr. Detective, will you please go and find this specific person? Unless, of course, you've met whatever the criteria are for a missing person. They got to be gone for more than 24 or 48 hours. I don't know.
That's
It varies from place to place. department to department, city to city, I'm sure state to state as well. But, there are a list of criteria, and they basically take a form, right? They fill out some paperwork. They take a report on this person, and they might enter it into a computer. And perhaps if somebody else, happens upon this guy or girl, whoever it is, the person you're looking for, then maybe something might happen. But you're still paying for it. And you run the risk of not getting any results either way.
I hear you. I think that if police agencies concentrated on the things that people want them to do, rather than running around and worrying about drug crimes and these sorts of things. Remember, these drug laws create the job of selling drugs. And so if people are selling drugs out in front of your house, that's because the government made it illegal to sell this stuff that was legal before. Remember, you can go look at the Sears catalog and say it says heroin for sale.
Oh yeah.
Cocaine. You could get those things. The government made them illegal, and much of the problem surrounding drug use is the illegality of it. And I get why people say, well, it's not the cops' fault, the legislators did it and all that stuff. Yeah, that's fine. But I think that police are really having the chickens come home to roost right now surrounding the policies that have gone on for decades. And I think that this is one way to address it. In the drug war, concentrate on the things that people expect cops to do. Another thing I'd like to address is speeding tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Cops really harm themselves with this whole speeding ticket thing. And I think they know it and their union knows it. But the people who employ them, they want that money that comes in.
You just drive across and then you get a bill in the mail that says, hey, you drove across, you owe us $5 or whatever it is.
Right. And you think about it. I mean, what's the point of a speeding ticket being $100 or at this point, like $250?
Right.
If you sent somebody a ticket for $20 for everybody who goes through this given area at above 55 miles an hour, they'd get all the revenue they want if that's what they're looking for. But instead, what they do is they send somebody out who catches you speeding 1 out of every 1,000 times you speed. That's not an incentive to stop speeding. That's an incentive to be better at catching cops and seeing whether they're out there and stuff. That's why we have fuzzbusters and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Then they park them on the side of the road with these gumballs going. They're designed to distract people. Ask anybody who's a first responder. They've seen an accident at an accident scene because people are looking. And it causes more accidents.
Yeah.
It's distracting.
Hey, Jill, thanks for the call tonight. We do appreciate you listening. 603-283-6160 is the phone number if you'd like to comment. Hour number 2 of Free Talk Live is next.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
A reach across the aisle. Lisa Brady, Fox News. A bipartisan group in Congress renews work on police reform, and some are meeting with family members who lost loved ones in use of force incidents. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
The brother of George Floyd joined other police reform advocates and attorney Benjamin Crump in meetings with key lawmakers negotiating police reform legislation.
They got to hear directly from the families whose blood will be on the legislation that is being proposed.
Crump says South Carolina Republicans Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham listened intently. Scott is leading Senate Republicans in talks with Democrats on a bill expected to address use of force and transparency in law enforcement. President Biden wants reform enacted by the one-year anniversary of Floyd's death next month. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. The president, meantime, is visiting Georgia, taking his jobs and family's plans on the road, also meeting with former President Jimmy Carter. The driver in a fiery van crash that killed 6 people last weekend near Atlanta is now charged with multiple counts.
Gwinnett County Police have booked Monica Manayer on suspicion of 6 counts of homicide by vehicle as well as reckless driving. Investigators accuse her of making an unsafe lane change while driving passengers in a van, most of whom were part of a sober living group. They were on their way to a recovery meeting. The van flipped over on I-85 and burst into flames. Passing motorists stopped to try to help pull people from the wreckage. 6 women were killed, and the 10 others inside were injured. The police report indicates, though, that witnesses told them a second vehicle unexpectedly changed lanes in front of the van before it crashed.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Indictments just announced against 8 people in the alcohol-related death of an Ohio college student found unconscious after a frat party in March. The charges range from hazing and assault to involuntary manslaughter. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't let the challenge of creating mobile apps stall your business. Building apps takes time, special skills, and a lot of money. Fortunately, with Sodi Snap, you can unleash your inner developer by allowing you to build and deploy apps fast. You don't need to be a software developer, and you don't need a lot of money. With Sodi Snap, you can create apps up to 10 times faster than traditional methods. Leverage Sodi's free app prototyping service. Visit sodi.net/Fox for a free trial for Fox News radio listeners. That's SOTI.net/Fox.
More than $100 million in medical supplies from the U.S. are on the way to India.
The U.S. Air Force launched 2 cargo planes full of badly needed medical supplies from California bound for India. A coronavirus outbreak has led to thousands of deaths in recent days. In a tweet, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said oxygen cylinders as well as N95 masks were part of the aid package. USAID delivered the supplies to Travis Air Force Base located outside San Francisco. The White House said India helped the U.S. when its hospitals were strained early in the pandemic. Now it's time for the U.S. to help India. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
India is having a record surge in COVID cases, topping 300,000 new cases per day. The French president laying out a new 4-step plan to reopen his country, including the return of outdoor terraces for cafes and restaurants in May, along with museums and theaters under certain conditions, though France's case numbers and hospitalizations remain high. A new poll finds many Americans support athletes and teams speaking out on issues.
Remember when there was a strong separation between sports and politics? Not anymore. A poll conducted for Seton Hall University by YouGov found that the majority of Americans support sports teams, leagues, and players using their influence to affect social change. Among poll questions, should teams and leagues use their influence? 48% said yes, 36% no, the rest undecided.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of
where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
According to a new report released this week by the Pew Research Center, a rising number of weak, emasculated men are working as stay-at-home dads, with a steadily increasing number of feeble, pathetic fayboys choosing to spend their days cooking, cleaning, and performing other submissive duties.
Well, our findings indicate that more and more pussified half-men are not going to work, and instead are embarrassing themselves by purchasing groceries, packing children's lunches, and denying all aspects of their masculinity on a daily basis.
The Onion spoke to one of these effete, pathetic excuses for men to get his response on the new report.
I love being able to stay home with Angela. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
What a f***ing pussy. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, hey, hey. It's Free Talk Live, the live call-in radio talk program where you get to take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number here in the studio for you to call is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass, and joining us from somewhere in the galaxy, it's...
I, Mark Edge, Intergalactic Space King.
Self-appointed Intergalactic Space King, I might add.
Well, I was given a vision when I was found naked at the Large Hadron Collider back in 2009. And it was that vision that made me realize that I was Intergalactic Space King.
Well, congratulations. Do you have a crown?
Well, yes, I have several.
Does one of them say Burger King?
I got rid of that long ago.
Okay. All right. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to, start with whatever you got and then work your way up to like majestic. At any rate,
I find that crowns aren't as effective as they used to be.
Yeah, I imagine so. Also, too, don't most kings have some sort of like cape-like robe thing that seems like it'd be really hot in like mid-July?
I have that too. It is hot.
Well, we've been talking about this article from Bitcoin.com about a gentleman who's been arrested for, well, all sorts of fun things. This says analysis of Bitcoin transactions, financial records, internet service provider records, email records, and additional investigative information identifies Roman Sterlingoff as the principal operator of Bitcoin Fog. This is a website you find on the Onion Router, or Tor, as it were, said Devin Beckett, the IRS's criminal investigation special agent. Sterlingoff is charged. Now, here's the part that I really wanted you to hear, Mark. Sterlingoff is charged with money transmission without a license, money laundering, and unlicensed money transmission. Now, I don't know what the difference is between money transmission without a license and unlicensed money transmission, but apparently those are two separate charges, according to this article.
Well, this is not surprising. They do that. Policing agencies have been doing this for years. They pile up charges on people in the hopes that they don't have to do any police work and the people will just take a plea bargain and bang, the case is done. And look, one more person in the prison system that is the largest in the world, and Americans are no safer. Like this guy, whomever he is, has never harmed anyone, or at least not accused of ever harming anyone.
Right.
But let's lock him out.
Yep. That's what they're saying. We'll talk more about this, but first I wanted to tell you about Liberty stickers. If you want to reach people with ideas of liberty, you can do it from the back of your car with libertystickers.com. You can reach thousands of people with a bumper sticker, and you know how people love to read them. So check out the vast selection of witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic liberty-oriented messages at libertystickers.com. That's libertystickers.com. So, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. They are charging the Sterlingov guy with money transmission without a license, money laundering, and unlicensed money transmission. It's been a while since I looked at the indictment for the Crypto 6, but are those the same things?
It's darn close.
Okay.
Basically, if you're touching cryptocurrency right now and you're not part of a major bank and you haven't kissed the ring, then it's a problem. So things like Coinbase, Kraken, there's a variety of other places that you could go to, Binance.
Right. These are known as exchanges.
Yeah, you're fine because you're basically going through the ones that have gone through the government's system.
Yeah.
But if you're buying and selling amongst your friends, which is why Bitcoin was created.
Yes, indeed.
It's the whole purpose, but it has been co-opted by the banks. This literally is the banks using the U.S. police forces as attack dogs to enforce their will. We know what happened in 2020. That the 500 richest people in America became wildly richer, and the rest of us became poor. We know that that's true.
Yep.
But we just sit here and say, well, it looks like the banks are picking up some more people, and that's just fine. And that our policing agencies that we put our trust in, they're just doing the jobs that the banks have asked them to do, and that's fine. It's a problem.
It's definitely not fine. I realize that you're speaking for, the common folk and what they think, but it certainly is not fine. This article continues on to say, Wired contributor Andy Greenberg spoke with Chainalysis co-founder Jonathan Levin about this situation with Mr. Sterlingov. And Greenberg's report details that alleged transactions stemming from Sterlingov in 2011 gave the IRS clues that they needed to catch him. Sterlingov apparently used these transactions to set up Bitcoin Fog's server. This is yet another example of how investigators with the right tools can leverage the transparency of cryptocurrency to follow the flow of illicit funds, the Chainalysis executive told Greenberg.
Right, and note that these are transactions that happened years ago. Bitcoin is wide open for knowing what people are doing. And I mean, of course somebody wants some more privacy. Do you want everybody to know? And this isn't just the government. This is anybody who wants to do what they call blockchain analysis.
Yep.
Do you want everybody to know what you're doing with your money? Because that's what Bitcoin allows. And that's why we need services like mixers.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't see anything wrong with the mixers existing. If a person is harming somebody else or somebody else's property, well, that's already a crime in today's laws. So prosecute them for that if you're going to prosecute somebody for anything. It's this invention and this, as you said, the co-opting of Bitcoin that is really bothersome to me because it is the people's money. It is designed for peer-to-peer transactions. I know that's not how it's being used and that it's sort of developing into, the gold of cryptocurrency, that it's a store of value.
I would say that it was designed to be the people's money. It is not the people's money.
It is not currently, but the thought behind it was that here is something that people can use peer-to-peer, which in my mind means person to person.
That's what it means, person to person.
So if I meet Bob and Bob is trying to sell a gold watch and I go, wow, that's a really nice gold watch, Bob. Can I buy that from you? He goes, yeah. I go, great. Here's some Bitcoin. And he goes, thanks. And he gives me the watch. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. And what would be the problem with that? Another feature, quote unquote feature of Bitcoin is that if you send somebody Bitcoin out of a wallet that has a great deal of Bitcoin in it, they know. They can look and find out, I should say. And do you want that? Is that what you want from your money? Look, this is just the way the system works. This is software, and it works the way that software works.
Yep.
And this mixing service allows you, among other things, to not show people how much money you have. I mean, literally, if you got into Bitcoin in 2012 and you bought 1,000 of them, and you're sending somebody out of a wallet that has, let's say, 900 left, they know that you have 900 Bitcoin left. And I don't know how wealthy that makes you, but it makes you pretty darn wealthy. I mean, multi-decamillionaire. Do you want people to know that you have tens of millions of dollars? Because that's going to change a whole bunch of things, including people end up dead in a river over that kind of money.
Right. That's like if you're just in the grocery store and you open your wallet to pay cash, they can see your entire bank account.
Right. This seems like a bad idea.
Indeed it does. 603-283-6160 is the number if you'd like to get your thoughts on the radio. This is Free Talk Live. We've got more coming up.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you for listening, everybody. This is the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, I am your host, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me.
And Mark.
Yay. Mark is calling from, what planet are you on today, Mark?
State of confusion.
The state of confusion. Oh, it's the last time you were in a glass case of emotion, so you're traveling around a bit. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit here, but before I do, I wanted to tell you about liberty.menu. For years, libertarians of all stripes have wanted a directory of liberty-minded businesses, and we're helping to build one. It's called liberty.menu. Liberty.menu is a tool for your community. At its core, it's a directory for events, businesses, and digital content, and more. Listings can be rated and reviewed, and there's a bit of a social network, too, so that you can connect and share with others. Use of liberty.menu is exclusively for individuals who reject the initiation of force and those who agree to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle. So put your voluntarist ideas into action at liberty.menu. You can use code FTL to get a special badge. Again, that's liberty.menu. So, Mark, you and I both brought in, I'm going to say, I don't want to say complimentary, but articles that at least have to deal with a very particular government agency that, if you spell it out, spells the word theirs, THEIRS. And the first one that I brought in was this from Motherboard, also known as Vice.com. The IRS wants help hacking cryptocurrency hardware wallets.
Yes.
Yeah.
This can be done.
No, I know it can be done, but like you would think that there wouldn't need to be an article published about it. You would think that they would put an ad out wherever the IRS puts ads out for when they want to hire somebody and be like, here's the qualifications of what we're looking for and that kind of thing. But instead, I'm reading an article that says the IRS wants help hacking cryptocurrency hardware wallets. It says, as more investors and criminals move to hardware wallets to secure their funds, the IRS is looking for new methods to access those wallets in criminal investigations.
Right. So let me paint a picture on how this might work.
Mm-hmm.
So the IRS, the Treasury Department, goes on a raid. They call somebody a criminal, somebody who probably has never harmed anyone, because that's what they do. By the way, recently, they last couple of years, they had stopped auditing rich people because there's so much work. So they started auditing middle-class people.
Oh.
Just in case, ladies and gentlemen, you thought the IRS was out there doing things for you. And so they say this person's bad, and they go and raid their house. And then they find their Bitcoin wallet, their little Trezor wallet, or I can't remember what the other one's
or
called.
whatever it is. Yeah, there's a variety of these things now.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there. So they find your Trezor wallet, and you've used your Trezor many times, and you just use the PIN code. Now, if you've wiped it, there's not much anybody can do. But if you've got it set up for this PIN code, and it's one of the older models, then it can be cracked. It absolutely can. And so what they're hoping to do is get all your money.
Right.
Now, obviously they need they're going to claim to have a certain amount or whatever. And then at some point or another, maybe you'll get it back or whatever happens.
Or they auction it off and sell it, making a tidy profit themselves off of somebody else's cryptocurrency.
This is another thing that's happened. So they have auctioned off people's cryptocurrency. And they only need a certain amount of it. Let's say you have 100,000 and they need 50,000. They auction it all off, get the 100,000, and then they hand you 50,000 a year or two later. Well, at that point, cryptocurrency has skyrocketed again, and your 100,000 would be worth $1 million, and so therefore your 50,000 would be worth 500,000. But sorry, we sold it.
Right. Yeah, that's horrible.
They're bad people doing bad things.
And they continue to do so, and not many people seem to care, or so it seems, at least for the majority of people.
People are leaving the United States at record numbers. I mean, like, people are not happy with this country. And this is true around the world. 80% of people polled around the world are unhappy with their government. Yeah. And I think that number is probably accurate in the United States, too.
I used to follow was it the blog or social media or something of Dr. Robert Higgs. He's an author. He's worked at the Mises Institute. He's done a bunch of good stuff as far as forwarding the ideas of freedom and that kind of thing. And he left the United States probably a good 7 years ago. And he was very, very cryptic about his reasons. He would cite, of course, many of the things that we cite here on Free Talk Live, right? The Federal Reserve, and it's going to inflate the money, and the police state, and all of that kind of thing. But he was cryptic about his personal reasons. And the only clue that he left, at least that I heard, it was a YouTube video. He was doing some presentation that made it to YouTube. The only clue was that he said something along the lines of, most people don't see coming what I see coming. And that sort of hit home to me with regards to, well, here's this guy who's, obviously much smarter than me when it comes to things like finance and things like, the political picture. He's been studying it for many years. He's, an accomplished author. And what does that mean? That always just sort of stuck in my head, that this type of a person would leave, a believer in freedom, right? A proponent of freedom. And he's just like, see ya.
Well, when it comes to the Federal Reserve, there's nothing you can do about the printing of money that's going on. Right now, both parties think it's a grand idea to print money to buy the things that they want to buy. And they argue about what those things are.
Right.
But they think they don't argue about the method and the means. Well, whether you live in Florida or New Zealand, the federal government's going to do this. And the United States dollar is the world reserve currency. So there's basically nothing that you can do to make this stop. So it's going to affect you no matter what. Leaving the United States doesn't change that. Yeah. I think there's lots of good reasons you leave the United States. And I did last year in January.
Right.
I moved to the U.S. Marianas because there are two ways to get off the IRS rolls. If you live as an American citizen in another country, let's say Switzerland, and you make more than, I think it's more about $200,000. If you make more than $200,000 and you're in a foreign country, the United States government still claims your income. And that's crazy stuff. The only ways to get off their rolls is to move to a U.S. territory. That's the IRS's rolls. Or to give up your U.S. citizenship, which is a big move.
Yeah, indeed it is. And I believe that's what Mr. Higgs did, but don't quote me on that. 603-283-6160. More about these crypto devices.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on and listen to Free Talk Live. Yeah, come on and call in. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. The phones are open. as they always are. Well, not always. Sometimes the lines are full and, we've got lots of callers. But you are free to call in and talk about anything that's on your mind. That's what we do here at Free Talk Live. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and joining me remotely,
me, Mark Edge.
I thought you were going for the caveman thing there for a minute, Mark. Me, Mark.
Me, Mark.
Me, Captain. Me, Mark. We story. We call. We listen. We talk. I don't know if I could read an article in the style of caveman. That might be annoying.
That would be rough.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this article from Vice that says the IRS wants help hacking cryptocurrency hardware wallets because apparently they're incapable of hacking them themselves.
I saw some article not too long ago, a couple of years maybe, that said the IRS is having a heck of a time just finding people that want to work for them, generally.
Good.
I mean, I can't imagine saying
that's some of the greatest news I think I've ever heard come out of your mouth, Mark.
I can't imagine saying that I'm an IRS agent is really heartwarming at parties or something. Most of the world is terrified of the United States military, right? Like, because they, for whatever reason, the commanders over there think it's a great idea to drop $1 million bombs on $10 tents. However, when you poll U.S. people, it's the IRS that comes up as the most terrifying organization.
Mm-hmm.
And Americans should not be afraid of their government. That doesn't make any sense.
Governments should fear their people, for sure.
Indeed. That's how you know you have freedom. The other way around, you have tyranny.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So this article says many cryptocurrency investors store their cryptographic keys, which is what confers ownership of their funds, with the exchange they use to transact or on a personal device. Some folks, however, want a little more security and use hardware wallets, small physical drives which store a user's keys securely, unconnected to the internet. The law enforcement arm of the tax agency IRS Criminal Investigation, and more specifically, its digital forensic unit, is now asking contractors to come up with solutions to hack into crypto wallets that could be of interest in investigations, the document states. The decentralization and anonymity provided by cryptocurrencies has fostered an environment for the storage and exchange of something of value outside the traditional purview of law enforcement and regulatory organizations, the document reads. There is a portion of this cryptographic puzzle that continues to elude organizations. Millions, perhaps even billions of dollars exist within crypto wallets. Now,
that's for sure. Billions of dollars most assuredly exist within crypto wallets.
Except they're not dollars.
Right.
They're not actual dollars. Like, you might be able to exchange them for dollars or rupees or yen or, insert, regular government sponsored currency here for whatever country you might live in. But what is being stored on these drives are not dollars.
Nope.
I just want that to be clear to our listeners. If you have cryptocurrency,
I don't think it's even clear that it's money. Like, I get that there may be some court cases out there that say that it's money, but how in the world does a court case say that software is money?
Right. I often equate music to cryptocurrency, right? Music is a language. What does the language do? It helps people communicate emotion. Cryptocurrency is also a language. It is code. It's letters, numbers, zeros and ones. What does it do? It helps people communicate value. It is not value itself. It is not a tangible thing. I can't hold a Bitcoin in my hand ever. It's not going to happen.
They do have things that you can hold.
Yeah.
That they make an effort to sort of tie a Bitcoin to. But you're absolutely right. A Bitcoin exists on the internet, and it doesn't even move.
Right.
If I send you 1/10 of a Bitcoin or 100th of a Bitcoin, that Bitcoin doesn't move.
Right.
It just stays in the same place. It's more like a bank account than anything. If I write you a check out of the bank account doesn't move, but the designation of the money is just reassigned to you.
Yeah. The decentralization and anonymity provided by cryptocurrencies has fostered an environment for the storage and exchange of something of value outside the traditional purview of law enforcement regulatory organizations. That sentence is incredibly important from this article because here's what's going to happen. The IRS is, let's say they're successful and they find some people to help them, hack into these different cryptocurrency wallets, these hard drives that exist. And so what's that going to do? It's going to trigger some market reaction, right? The people who manufacture these devices now are going to go, oh, well, we're going to have to do something to make these things, these offline storage devices, more secure and unhackable.
To be clear, they already have. Like, that's already occurred.
Yeah.
So what the IRS is hoping is you drive the equivalent of a 1976 Ford F-150.
I thought you were going to say Pinto. Whatever. Thank you.
Right. And the kind of thing where you can rip out the ignition, put a couple of wires together, and vroom, vroom, it starts right up.
Right.
I mean, a friend of mine had a Datsun that we would turn on with a flat screwdriver.
A friend of mine had, I think was it a Vega? Same thing.
I don't know.
Yeah. The article continues, the security of hardware wallets presents a problem for investigators. The document states that agencies may be in possession of a hardware wallet as part of a case, but may not be able to access it if the suspect does not comply. This means that authorities cannot effectively investigate the movement of currencies, and it may prevent the forfeiture and recovery of the funds. So the device is doing the job which it was intended to do in this particular case. That's why
for the device.
Right. That's why the IRS wants researchers and contractors to come forward with solutions to hack into hardware wallets. Crucially, the IRS does not want a one-off solution, but tools it can reliably use in multiple cases going forward.
Satoshi Nakamoto, when he or they or she, whomever Satoshi Nakamoto might have been, created Bitcoin, he created it with this intention that the nefarious actors could not get into the wallet. And I would go so far as to say nefarious actors that work for the government.
Yes.
And here's why. Because a bad guy will hit you in the knee with a wrench, or worse, hit your wife or child in the knee with a wrench until you tell them the password.
Right.
Whereas the government, the people in the government, they work under this cloak of legitimacy, and they're not likely to do such a thing. So they basically have to operate with under the color of law, and therefore Bitcoin is good for hiding funds from the government, bad for hiding funds from a guy will hit you in the knee with a wrench.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to me because this sounds a lot like what they've done to cell phones. Cell phone manufacturers and the software companies, specifically Android and which is Google and Apple, where the government has the ability to hack into these devices. They've gone to these companies and said, hey, when you release your next version of software, your next update, we need you to build in a backdoor for us to be able to access, whenever we want to. And this article sounds a lot like they're asking these hardware wallet manufacturers to do that exact same thing.
I heard about that one cell phone from that bomber person. They spent $1 million trying to get into that Apple phone. I don't think Apple gave them anything.
Yeah. 603-283-6160. Do you store your cryptocurrency on a hardware wallet? More Free Talk Live coming up.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Shortly after members of the New York Police Department found a super sharp Buck brand pocket knife earlier this morning, Lieutenant Joseph Mattioli spoke to Onion reporters at the scene of the discovery to update the public on this potentially deadly blade.
At 8:40 a.m., police discovered what seems to be a pretty badass buck knife. Investigators believe it to be basically the deadliest knife ever.
Mattioli confirmed that the pretty cool wood-handled knife has a clean edge and added that the blade must be, quote, at least like 8 inches long.
At this time, we'd like everyone to be aware that there's probably a man out there with an eye patch and scars all over his face that has access to these knives, or maybe even a samurai sword. We urge people to be careful when approaching him because he may flip out and chop both your arms off before you even realize it.
Following the announcement, Mattioli asked people to come forward if they had any information about the owner of the knife or if they just wanted to hold it for a couple of seconds. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Yes, this is Imitate a Drum Roll Live. I'm just kidding. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. That's the name of the program. We are a live call-in radio talk program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about anything at all, whatever's on your mind. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
And me, it's Mark Edge.
Woohoo! And the telephone number, should you wish to get your voice on the radio and talk about things, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls and thoughts in just a moment. First, I have to tell you about the Crypto 6. On March 16th, 2021, government agencies, I call them terrorists, conspired together and raided Free Talk Live They raided the Bitcoin Embassy. That's the studio Free Talk Live. They raided the Bitcoin Embassy, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, the homes of Renee and Andy Spinella, and the home of Colleen Fordham. 6 people were arrested. These are the Crypto Six, and they were taken into custody, or kidnapped, as Jet would like to say. Ian Freeman and the person named Nobody remain hostages in custody. What can you do to help? Well, check out thecrypto6.com. There are multiple ways in which you can donate to their legal defense fund because these charges are not a joke. It's going to take serious legal expertise to protect the Crypto 6 from further aggression from the state. This case will most likely set precedent that will affect the world of cryptocurrency for decades to come. Help them in their fight for liberty and financial freedom by visiting thecrypto6.com. Again, thecrypto6.com. All right, we've been talking about this article from Vice where the IRS is looking for folks to help them hack into hardware wallets that store the keys to cryptocurrency. And I don't know. I'll just continue on the article. I have so many things that I could say about this, but the explicit outcome of this contract is to tame the cybersecurity research into measured, repeatable, consistent digital forensics process that can be trained and followed in a digital forensics laboratory, the document says. So this is what the IRS wants. They want
it's
people.
It's not going to work. So, I mean, like, take a look at the arms race. Mm-hmm. What we currently have is people who want their cryptocurrency secured and people who want to get into it. Well, at this point, the government's behind the game. They're already failing. The hardware wallets already know what they want, and they've moved beyond whatever little tricks were going to be used. Fact. Now, if you've got an old system, you got an old hardware wallet, then yeah, you're liable to get hacked into by the government hackers. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is really just ridiculous. This is them showing how ignorant they are.
Yeah, I've seen a picture. I think it was a cartoon that somebody did for a magazine. You know how you see in like Time magazine, there'll be a cartoon, a political cartoon in the bottom left-hand corner or whatever. It was a picture of like the Starship Enterprise, and there was a rope tied to the back of it that was then tied to a covered wagon, sort of sitting on the planet. And the covered wagon was labeled government, and the Starship Enterprise was labeled blockchain technology.
It's the truth, right? Those people in the government are just so ignorant of this, and they're trying so hard to make things difficult. And this is true in every industry. Mm-hmm. How much innovation would we have right now? We'd probably all be living forever if it wasn't for the government involvement in medicine.
Yeah, that may be true. And we'll talk more about this, but first, let's go to David, who's calling from Michigan. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Right on, gentlemen. Great subject. It kind of pales in comparison to my simple question, which is important, but tell me a little bit more. The Crypto 6, was this the FBI?
Oh, it was...
Because the news hasn't hit here in Jackson, Michigan.
Yeah, there's been a lack of coverage of this particular event on mainstream media for certain. It's been covered by a few libertarian media folks, but it has not been covered by any cryptocurrency news agency that I'm aware of. But I can tell you that it was multiple agencies. It was the FBI. It was the Treasury Department. The post office was here. The local police were here. The state police were here. I'm missing one of them, Mark.
It was Treasury, post office,
Treasury, post
local,
office,
state, even the county. I mean, they had everybody.
And the FBI, of course, seemed to be the large one. So. Yeah, that is. They didn't. They showed up with 2 Bearcats, David. I don't know if you know what these are. These are tanks, right? But they only have 4 wheels instead of having the track.
6.
You know what I mean? But
yes,
they get these from the military, and what they did is they mounted battering rams to the front of at least one of these Bearcats to bash in the doors of the Free Talk Live studio, the building that contains the studio, which also contains some residences, some apartments where people live. And so they bashed in the doors. They threw iron hooks through the second-story windows, bashing them in and pulling, the frames out. They had a drone that flew in. They bashed in the front, the big window where the studio is. They bashed that in, flew a drone in through the window. Glass, of course, scattered everywhere because this building has old glass, and it's not that glass that just sort of cracks. It's the glass that shatters.
Right.
They, of course, woke everybody up. It was about 6 a.m. in the morning when it went down. They woke everybody up.
Was there press around?
There was no press around immediately. There were sort of people within, who know of the studio, who live within, say, 5 minutes of here, who were able to come and show up and get some footage. But, of course, the agents and I'm going to call them the terrorists because that's what they were dressed like. They were in full military regalia, and this kind of a thing. So, there's some footage that was able to be had, but, they, of course, did their best to shoo that away. They roped off what is the equivalent of 3 surrounding blocks. This is a residential neighborhood in a quiet Mayberry type of town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What they didn't do, of course, David, was knock on the door. See if anybody would answer.
This was a raid that should have been a telephone call.
That's right.
They absolutely had the opportunity to make a telephone call and say, hey, look, we're of the opinion that you're messing up here, here, and here. And we think that the American public would be better served if you did that. Now, who knows what Ian would have done? And I have no idea, but they didn't even bother.
But
they've got to spend millions and millions of dollars prosecuting instead of just making a telephone call.
In the mail, a registered letter. All you had to do.
Yep. So, what were you calling about tonight, David? I'm sorry, we went off on a tangent there.
Actually, a little bit about it is that cryptocurrency in its form as it is, growing in value, sounds like an excellent investment. Yet, how would one convert, say, $5,000? Okay, I'll invest $5,000, get a fraction of a Bitcoin. Say it goes up to $10,000, doubles in value in a month or two. How do I convert my profit, $10,000, leave the other there, into cash or whatever currencies throughout the world?
Mark, you want me to take this? Or
let me take that.
Okay.
So I'd like to make this point. Let's say you bought a tenth of a Bitcoin at $50,000. So it was $5,000 worth of Bitcoin. When it goes to 10,000, that means Bitcoin went to 100,000. It goes to 10,000. You would have to sell half of that tenth of a Bitcoin, giving you 0.05 Bitcoin. So that's the first thing you need to understand. It doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't have interest. It's not anything like that. It's like a bar of gold.
It's fractioned off.
Right. So you could sell it and do that. And there's plenty of companies that do that. I think the easy ones to use are like Kraken and Coinbase if you're just going to be a sort of above board Bitcoin user. And I understand why people would be involved. I personally believe you should possess your own Bitcoins, but that's a longer conversation.
Hey, thanks for the call, David. More Free Talk Live is on the way. 603-283-6160.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
A reach across the aisle. Lisa Brady, Fox News. A bipartisan group in Congress renews work on police reform, and some are meeting with family members who lost loved ones in use of force incidents. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
The brother of George Floyd joined other police reform advocates and attorney Benjamin Crump in meetings with key lawmakers negotiating police reform legislation.
They got to hear directly from the families whose blood will be on the legislation that is being proposed.
Crump says South Carolina Republicans Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham listened intently. Scott is leading Senate Republicans in talks with Democrats on a bill expected to address use of force and transparency in law enforcement. President Biden wants reform enacted by the one-year anniversary of Floyd's death next month. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. The president, meantime, is visiting Georgia, taking his jobs and family's plans on the road, also meeting with former President Jimmy Carter. The driver in a fiery van crash that killed 6 people last weekend near Atlanta is now charged with multiple counts.
Gwinnett County Police have booked Monica Manayer on suspicion of 6 counts of homicide by vehicle as well as reckless driving. Investigators accuse her of making an unsafe lane change while driving passengers in a van, most of whom were part of a sober living group. They were on their way to a recovery meeting. The van flipped over on I-85 and burst into flames. Passing motorists stopped to try to help pull people from the wreckage. 6 women were killed, and the 10 others inside were injured. The police report indicates, though, that witnesses told them a second vehicle unexpectedly changed lanes in front of the van before it crashed.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Indictments just announced against 8 people in the alcohol-related death of an Ohio college student found unconscious after a frat party in March. The charges range from hazing and assault to involuntary manslaughter. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't let the challenge of creating mobile apps stall your business. Building apps takes time, special skills, and a lot of money. Fortunately, with Sodi Snap, you can unleash your inner developer by allowing you to build and deploy apps fast. You don't need to be a software developer, and you don't need a lot of money. With Sodi Snap, you can create apps up to 10 times faster than traditional methods. Leverage Sodi's free app prototyping service. Visit sodi.net/Fox for a free trial for Fox News radio listeners. That's SOTI.net/Fox.
More than $100 million in medical supplies from the U.S. are on the way to India.
U.S. Air Force launched 2 cargo planes full of badly needed medical supplies from California bound for India. A coronavirus outbreak has led to thousands of deaths in recent days. In a tweet, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said oxygen cylinders as well as N95 masks were part of the aid package. USAID delivered the supplies to Travis Air Force Base located outside San Francisco. The White House said India helped the U.S. when its hospitals were strained early in the pandemic. Now it's time for the U.S. to help India. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
India is having a record surge in COVID cases, topping 300,000 new cases per day. The French president laying out a new four-step plan to reopen his country, including the return of outdoor terraces for cafes and restaurants in May, along with museums and theaters under certain conditions, though France's case numbers and hospitalizations remain high. A new poll finds many Americans support athletes and teams speaking out on issues.
Remember when there was a strong separation between sports and politics? Not anymore. A poll conducted for Seton Hall University by YouGov found that the majority of Americans support sports teams, leagues, and players using their influence to affect social change. Among poll questions, should teams and leagues use their influence? 48% said yes, 36% no, the rest undecided.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
The victims of a devastating tornado expressed gratitude that The Onion's three-part series on the disaster was reported with fairness, accuracy, and an unusual degree of sensitivity. Survivors said they were at least thankful for one thing, that The Onion put much more care and insight into their reporting of the tragedy than any competing newspaper, by far. In economic news, a Pulitzer Prize would very much help certain newspapers increase their circulation, resulting in greater ad sales and more revenue to pay their tireless, hardworking reporters, all of whom have families at home to care for. In other headlines, a group known as Americans for Fairness in Awarding Journalism Prizes is asking all Americans to help The Onion receive a Pulitzer Prize. An anonymous man says he will murder 50 innocent people if The Onion is not awarded a Pulitzer. And look at it, it's beautiful. Look, just give us a Pulitzer already, okay? This is humiliating. For more prize-worthy stories and videos, go to theonion.com/review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off hour number 3 of the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. We are the live call-in radio talk program where you can call in, take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and joining me remotely
is me, Mark Edge.
And in case there are some listeners who are not viewing the live stream, we have video streams over at D-Live and Twitch. I think we're on Aria's YouTube. I think we're still on Facebook somehow. We're on Vaughn Live and maybe a couple others that I can't remember. There is a facsimile of Mark here in the studio joining me, just so that when Mark speaks, I can look over at him and like either smile or like give him the dirty eye, the dirty look or whatever, or give him my disgruntled face or whatever. It just makes me feel more like Mark's here.
Go check it out at cam.freetalklive.com.
Indeed. We've been talking about this article from Vice where the IRS is searching for people to help them hack cryptocurrency hardware wallets. Now, these hardware wallets were designed specifically to be a secure place to store your cryptocurrency keys. When I talk about cryptocurrency keys, I just want to make it very clear to everybody because this information doesn't seem to be getting through to a lot of people new to cryptocurrency. And it's a very simple phrase. Not your keys, not your money.
Yep.
Again, not your keys, not your money. If somebody else controls your keys, like a Coinbase, like a Binance, or any other exchange, Kraken, even some wallets that you put on your mobile devices are custodial. That means they are holding your cryptocurrency keys. That means that the money isn't actually under your control. It's not really yours. If they wanted to, if a nefarious actor, as Mark likes to say, joined Coinbase or Binance or Kraken or any of these, not any, but like the custodial wallet companies, and they wanted to make away with your cryptocurrency, they could do so because you don't have the keys.
This has happened, and I think the best way to describe it is the bank. Like when you give money to the bank, it's not your money anymore. They put it in an account with your name on it, but if somebody powerful enough wants that money, then the bank's going to give it to them. I've seen it happen over and over again. And ladies and gentlemen, it's true too. If somebody in the government, and I don't know where you are in the world, there's all kinds of governments around the world, but somebody in the government says, I want that money, the bank's going to give it to them.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter why.
Now, the difference between the bank and a hardware cryptocurrency wallet is that the IRS doesn't seem to be able to know how to hack into them just yet. And that's great because
cryptocurrency is good in this way.
Yes. And so this article continues, while the desire for a reusable tool makes a lot of sense to store your crypto on, it's also what makes this request so challenging, according to Andrew Tierney, a security researcher who has done research into cryptocurrency hardware wallets. He says, hardware wallets are really getting quite secure now with a lot of research into them. You might be able to find issues in a few, but to have ready-made exploits to work against lots of them is going to be very hard, Tierney, who is also known as Cyber Gibbons. That's his online name, apparently.
When he says very hard, he means in the sense that like astrophysicists use the term very hard or very difficult.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. By the time the government rolls out its next hack into a hardware wallet, these hardware wallets are 2 or 3 generations beyond whatever that is.
Yeah, and he actually goes on to say, another challenge, of course, is that the funds aren't actually on the wallet.
That's true.
Just the keys. So if the owner knows they are attacking it and can act, the funds can be moved. And that's all factual. I mean, these hardware wallet companies advertise this as a feature. So if you go and you're looking for this type of a thing, this is, one of the bullet points about what it can do. Like if you're buying a car, it's a 4-wheel drive and it's got cruise control and it's, it's got power windows and power, this is a feature of these hardware wallets.
Right. And so many people in the government, remember the IRS, these, their crypto hacker club, they're not the ones who are going in with guns and doing the raids. So the people who are doing the raids, they think all kinds of different things. I swear the FBI thought that it was going to find Bitcoins by pulling the wires out of our broadcast stack, and that's why we were taken off the air.
Or taking the safe out of the convenience store, and then they didn't find anything in it and brought it back.
Right. And they didn't have a warrant for that safe, but no one's ever going to hold them responsible for that.
Right.
They also took some hardware wallets that had something to do with the Shire Free Church's funds, which has nothing to do with Ian and his, buying and selling Bitcoin as a ministry for the church. So, but I mean, that didn't stop them from taking them.
Right.
And
and they took people's phones and some laptops and other assorted electronics too.
Yeah, they did all kinds of stuff.
So according to the cryptocurrency research from Chainalysis, around 20% of all of the Bitcoin in existence, equaling more than $100 billion, is contained inside locked wallets. I didn't know that until I scanned this article. I didn't see that sentence before show prep. That's pretty amazing. There's so much lost Bitcoin out there. It's like the 21st century of sunken ships with treasure aboard. Adriana Sanabria, a cybersecurity expert, told Motherboard in an online chat. That's true. The IRS has recently signaled its intent to track and enforce against fraud related to cryptocurrencies even more closely than it has in the past. In March, the agency announced Operation Hidden Treasure, which has the goal of ferreting out undeclared cryptocurrency gains. The document makes no mention of that operation, and it's unclear if it's connected to it or not. Regardless, as more and more criminals choose hardware wallets. Notice they didn't say as more and more people choose hardware wallets. They're making it seem as if you choose a hardware wallet, you're a criminal.
You're either using their banker friends' systems for getting Bitcoin, or you're a criminal. They want to say that. I'd like to talk about hacking Bitcoin wallets for a second.
Yeah.
I used to have this as the background, the wallpaper on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
It is a picture of the sun, and it is a quote. And this is from one of the Bitcoin people. Imagine you built a perfect computer. Forget about G-hash and megahertz. You build a computer which use the absolute minimum amount of energy theoretically possible to record a change in a single bit. That's a 1 to a 0 or 0 to a 1. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the limits of thermodynamics. Nothing more efficient is even possible. And now you used most of the natural resources in our solar system to construct a Dyson sphere which covers the surface of the sun and extracts all the energy from it. Now imagine you could keep this supercomputer cooled at roughly absolute zero, and you could do so without expending any additional energy. If you had that and captured with no inefficiency and loss the entire energy output of our star, not just in a day, a week, but continually until it burned out, you couldn't count to 2 to the 256th power before you ran out of energy. Keep in mind that this is simply counting. It's not hashing, not comparing, not performing lookups, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These numbers have nothing to do with the technology of devices. They're the maximums that thermodynamics will allow, and they strongly imply that brute force attacks against 256-bit keys, that's what Bitcoin is, are infeasible. And that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. They're not hacking Bitcoin wallets.
Coming up, Biden to propose $80 billion for the IRS. More power to chase down high-income tax evasion on Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks for tuning into the show, everybody. It is Free Talk Live. Open phones here. In fact, we have some callers. We'll get to those in just a minute. The telephone number, if you want to try and join us, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it is myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and joining me,
Mark Edge.
We've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but we wanted to, I teased before the break that we wanted to talk about this bit that, actually, Mark, you brought this in from Zero Hedge. It's Biden to propose $80 billion for the IRS and grant them more power to chase down high income tax evasion.
It's the truth, right? The Biden administration is expected to propose giving the IRS $80 billion and granting the agency more power to track down tax evasion by high-income individuals and corporations, according to the New York Times, citing two people familiar with the plan. The proposed funding would be an increase of 2/3 of the agency's entire budget for the past decade.
Oh my God, 2/3 more than their entire budget for the past decade?
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. I know this. Any power that they have over rich people, they will soon have over me.
Oh, yeah.
And that I don't want the IRS to have any more power. It already has plenty. I mean, when they demand things from you, you have to act in a different fashion than you do when, say, somebody, some court case comes to you or something like that. They've got policing powers that are deeper than many police agencies.
They
and this is terrifying. Like, I hate this annual game where you report numbers and then we'll add those to our numbers, and then we'll come up with whatever you owe us, and you better be right, otherwise jail for you.
Yeah, that's a meme that goes around usually around tax time every year. It's like, hey, the IRS, hey, you owe us money. How much do I owe? I don't know. You have to figure that out. Well, what if I get it wrong? Well, you go to jail.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, this is crazy. This is Kafkaesque. That we don't want this.
No, I certainly don't. And we'll talk more about this, but first, let's go to the phones, and let's go to Dan calling from Michigan. Dan, you are on Free Talk Live.
Yeah. Hi. Mark just said something about Bitcoin, and it really gives me a lot of hope because, I study prophecy in the Bible and the beast and all that, and he says Bitcoin, how hard it is to hack. And then the beast can't control that currency. I'm thinking now, so I do need Bitcoin, and because I have been listening to you guys, I'm a little nervous. Excuse me.
That's okay. Just relax, take a breath, and it's cool. You'll relax eventually. It's cool. We got you, Dan.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense on how difficult it is to hack. In all this IRS stuff is sinking in, and I think that's the currency to have. You don't have to take the mark, any kind of mark, on your hand or your forehead to buy and sell.
Yeah, you don't have to take the mark of anything, whether it's a religious or a government-sponsored thing. Like, you don't have to, get the microchip that will allow you to sort of wave your hand and pay, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's a great thing all of a sudden, because I was thinking that all this currency, the cryptocurrency, cashless society, well, they have their system, the world. I'll just get away from the prophecy, but the world at large, they want to control everything, and this is a way to, and you guys are right on, and I'm so glad I tuned you in.
Hey, we appreciate the call, Dan. Thank you for tuning in. I hadn't thought about it, Mark, from the perspective that Dan brought up, but, I mean, it certainly does free people from the existing systems.
I'm not sure that it has yet to free us from the mark of the beast, if you want to use that terminology. So what the mark of the beast is this mark that presumably is given to you by the government that says that you can do business and travel and do these sorts of things. And
sounds like the Vaxport.
Well, there's a lot like that coming down. The Bitcoin is, to me, on the parapet of either being free or not being free. The government lacks some control over Bitcoin, but it has some control already. Remember, when I say governments, what I mean is international banking corporations.
Right, the cartels.
Right, like these are the people that truly make things happen. When an international banking corporation wants something to happen, it does.
Yep.
When an international banking corporation breaks the law, nobody goes to prison. When you want something to happen, it doesn't. And when you break the law, you go to prison. Right. These are the people that rule us. The governments, I should say, the international banking corporations, they're denizens and they're stooges in government.
Right, because government has all of the weapons. And so they're the enforcement arm at a minimum.
And don't forget, you pay for the weapons. The government is a ruse.
That's true.
That you pay for the enforcement arm for the international banking corporations and pay for their weapons, so that you can be safe from bad people. You are ruled by bad people.
Yep.
So it doesn't get any better. So there's other currencies to look at out there. For instance, Monero comes to mind.
Yep.
Other privacy coins. I don't know which one's going to be super valuable or the next big thing. I don't know.
Well, I really like that there are hundreds, if not thousands at this point, of different cryptocurrencies. And I like it because if you're seeking a specific feature, there's likely a coin that is either specializing or attempting to specialize in that particular thing. So like you mentioned the privacy coins, right? There's other coins that are trying to do things for like charity, right? It's like, oh, if you use our coin, then, a percentage of whatever it is that we do as a, the coin operators will go towards these charities, or specifically for charities to use to pay for stuff, that type of a thing. So there's all sorts of things out there. And the longer the industry continues, the more features will be developed. We haven't seen features added to money in our lifetimes, if not even within our grandparents' lifetimes, outside of like a new strip for like security or a new design. Anyway, more Free Talk Live is on the way. 603-283-6160.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for listening to this program this evening. It is Free Talk Live. We are the call-in radio talk program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. We are live from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern Time every day. I mean, there's a few days out of the year, and there's like a couple of events where we're not actually broadcasting live. Outside of that, we're broadcasting live every day, 7 days a week, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So some of you might be hearing this program outside of those hours. That's great. You just can't really call in and take control of the airwaves during those hours. You have to call between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time in order to attempt to get on the air. And
lots of people do that. All they have to do is plan ahead. You know, if you want to hear yourself on the radio tonight at 2 a.m. or wherever your whatever radio station your radio station plays us at, go ahead and call us between 7 and 10.
Yep. So in the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain, joining me.
And me, Mark.
And we've been talking about, well, we haven't really gotten into it very far. This article from Zero Hedge that says Biden to propose $80 billion for the IRS and more power to chase down high income tax evasion. Mark, that's your cue.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. The 80. I'm sorry, I was looking at the article trying to get us back to where we were.
Well, and you were probably flabbergasted by just hearing those words again. I know I was.
The 10-year proposal would also include new disclosure requirements for small business owners not organized as corporations, as well as other wealthy people who could be hiding income from the IRS. Those using so-called pass-through corporations, such as the ones the Bidens used to funnel $13 million through tax loopholes. So Biden knows these loopholes because he's been using them.
He's been using. Well, I know right where they're at. I've been using them for years.
As well as people holding wealth in opaque structures. It would be subject to new reporting requirements. The additional money and enforcement power will accompany new disclosure requirements for people who own businesses that are not organized as corporations and for other wealthy people who could be hiding income from the government. The Biden administration will portray those efforts. Coupled with new taxes, it is proposing on corporations and the rich as a way to level the tax playing field between typical American workers and very high earners who employ sophisticated efforts to minimize or avoid taxation. So says the New York Times. This is it, right? This is yet another stage in the decline of the American empire. This is what they do. They get rapacious once they're their desire for growth outstrips their ability to tax.
Right.
So at this point, they've been printing money for a very long time, and they realize that their credit rating is going down. Like, you can't just print money and expect no consequences. Their credit rating's going down. They can't tax more. So what are they going to do? They're going to go after, and they're going to find the bad guys. They're going to say, this is a bad person, and that's why we're taking money from them. You know, these patterns are nothing new. This is what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sorry, America is on the decline.
Mark, is there somebody, flying a drone behind you or something? I'm just hearing a little bit of a mechanical type noise. Sounds like a sander or something.
No drones, sorry.
Okay. I just hear a little bit of a hum in the background. Sounds like somebody might be running a thing. At any rate, this is scary in so many ways, because all this means is that there's going to be more goons coming after you and I, more of them, looking at scrutinizing your tax returns. They're spending $80 billion to come and make sure that you aren't making any mistakes on your annual paperwork of the income, which they had nothing to do with. They didn't help you in any way to start your business. They didn't help you in any way to get the skills that you have. I don't know, maybe you got like a guaranteed student loan or something like that, but that's not really them helping you. That's them helping the loan company.
We all went through the government school system or whatever it is. You know, you can't break somebody's leg, give them a crutch, and then claim you helped.
That's what they're doing.
That's what they do. And there's no doubt about it. I'm just saying we probably should steer clear of the terminology help, because they help all the time. Help in air quotes.
We're here to help.
I should say, what I want to say about this is I think that they're so thoroughly inserted in our lives that we think we couldn't make it without them. And that's ridiculous.
It is amazing to me how many people hold that belief. And that's what it is. It's a belief. It's not a matter of fact. It's a belief.
Look, the United States is losing its highest earners, most productive people year after year. People don't want to be stuck here and have to deal with all this stuff. Once COVID happens, once it's over, people are going to start just pouring out of the United States with Biden's tax changes and these sorts of things. Gotta say, like they'll leave the middle class, the upper middle class, the lower classes. They'll leave them here,
right,
to fight amongst themselves for the scraps, and they're going to go someplace else and begin building again.
It's going to get ugly.
It's the way it is. This is what empires on decline look like.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
not pretty.
This does all of this financially reminds me of the decline of Rome. You know, when they started debasing their own currency. At some point, too, Rome even refused to accept their own currency for taxes. So they knew their currency was full of it, and they would not accept it. Instead, you had to pay them in some other way, gold or silver or...
Well, their currency was clipped, coins.
Yes.
That's what the Romans did. So they took their own coins, clipped a bit off of it, and then... that was their tax. I'd like to say here, according to a report, some $700 billion in tax revenues recovered over 10 years by the beefed up IRS will help pay for Biden's next stimulus injection, the dubbed American Families Plan, which is expected to cost at least $1.5 trillion. So they're expecting to pay for half of the stimulus that they're doing, and the other half they're going to saddle your grandchildren with.
Right.
Like, this is real. Ladies and gentlemen, you are currently paying the interest on taxes, on debt that was created during the American Civil War.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. So those people saddled not just their grandchildren, but the great-grandchildren, their great-great-grandchildren. It's irresponsible. Every time you expect the government to do a thing, you are acting irresponsibly, because those people clearly will go after little babies who aren't even born yet and try to take their money. That's how evil they are.
Yeah. Isn't there, I'm trying to think, like, I think the biblical term is sins of the father, but there's a financial term for that too. Like, you're not supposed to be able to hold somebody's son responsible for something that the father did, before they died. So, if you're a dad and you die, they shouldn't be able to hold your son responsible for anything that you did. Yet, here we are.
Here we are. That's how that's the system. It's a system based on debt, not based on value. The government's currency is not based on value. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, which we've been talking about, these are things that people are willing to pay for. They are of value. Mm-hmm. You may not like it, but somebody does.
I like it just fine. I love cryptocurrency. The fact that it exists without the permission of any of these crooks, any of these organizations of liars and idiots and thieves, I like it a lot. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Anyone can publish on the internet, but not everyone is publishing material suited for online reading. According to the Yahoo Style Guide, it cautions that internet content has a few seconds, 3 or less, to encourage people to read more, to take action, or navigate to another one of your pages. So make it easy for readers to pick and choose. Isn't that the way you poke around online? Use short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and short pages. Front load what you write, putting the most important information at the beginning of headlines and paragraphs and sentences. Same goes for your keywords, what someone would likely type into the search box on Yahoo or Google. For more tips on communicating better online or in a job interview or everyday life, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live.
The amount of young people being brought up on criminal charges, sex offender charges, for taking nude photos of themselves and putting them online. It's just so sad to see these people having their lives just rolled right over the top of by these prosecutors that want to make it look like they're doing something good, but they're not doing anything that's helping anyone. There's no victim in this case. When you hear the term child pornography, what should come to mind, if anything, should be the idea of forcing children into sexual scenes and videotaping or photographing
adults
them.
Forcing children or somebody.
Even if it's a child forcing another child, I think the force is the issue there. If you're talking about a 15-year-old girl voluntarily choosing to take a nude photo of herself to send to her boyfriend or to post online, no one forced her to do that.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on and listen to Free Talk Live. It's the final segment of this Saturday night edition. And I need to tell you that you can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for Forkfest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, but Forkfest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you need to do is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. I can't think of a better place to celebrate Independence Day other than around freedom-loving people in New Hampshire. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party, where you can connect with other attendees. You can find a link to the unofficial Telegram chat, and there's also an unofficial forum and some other information. Again, links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. One more item of business is I would like to say thank you to David R. Jeffries, who is a platinum amplifier. That means he gives a very generous chunk of money to Free Talk Live in order to help us get onto more radio stations. We're currently on around 200 radio stations. We could be on 250. We could be on 300 radio stations across the country. It's all up to you. You can find out about this program over at amp.freetalklive.com. AMP, of course, stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. Every dollar that's contributed through the AMP program goes directly to get us on more radio stations. It doesn't go into Mark's travel budget. It doesn't go into my beer budget, or anything like that. It goes directly to help us get on more radio stations. So thank you again to David R. Jeffries for being a platinum level amplifier. Find out more at amp.freetalklive.com. All right, we've been talking about this article from Zero Hedge about Biden's proposal to give $80 billion to the IRS and more power to chase down high-income tax evasion. We can talk more about that, but first let's go to the phones. Let's go to MJ calling from Alabama. MJ, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, y'all were talking earlier about the help wanted signs around and businesses having trouble to get people.
Yep.
And some other guy called in and said that they just getting application folders filled up. All well, that's not true. I eat out a lot, and down here in the last few, I say 3 to 4 weeks, especially, it's got where the places that was open and serving inside the restaurant plus the drive-through no longer serve in the restaurant because they can't get enough help to run both the drive-through and the inside the restaurant. So
you remind me.
There, it's happening.
You remind me, MJ,
also,
that happened here in Keene, New Hampshire as well. There was a chain restaurant that they wanted to reopen, and so they did, but they also couldn't keep up with the business. So then they just went back to drive up only, curbside.
Well, also, I just talked to a friend that was up in Tuscaloosa where I just moved here from last year. And the person there said that they went to Burger King and said they pulled up to the drive-thru and there's a long line at the drive-thru. And when they went through the drive-thru, they stopped at the first window to pay the clerk. When they paid the clerk, they went to the next window to pick up the food. And there was that same person at that window. And she asked her, "Are you there by yourself?" She said, "Yes, nobody else is here. It's just me. I'm having to do all the cooking. I'm having to work the drive-thru and the pay window." She was doing everything by herself, and she just broke down and started crying because it was getting to her because she couldn't handle it, doing it all by herself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, number one, that's a talented employee that shouldn't likely be working in fast food. And if they can multitask like that, some lucky business is going to hire that person and get a very fine employee who can multitask.
Yeah,
the other thing I wanted to say
manager,
when I heard
because, she was there, unlocked the doors, and opened up because they would have had to be a manager there to do all that. So evidently, she was the manager, and like I said, yeah, she's talented enough to run that by herself, so she's pretty good.
Indeed. So when I heard this, the caller that earlier in the show that was talking about it, my first thought is, yeah, absolutely. If you don't have enough employees, then the next step is you got to increase what you're offering. If people don't want to come back to work, then you got to increase it. Look, I get it. The government may be still handing out whatever the goodies are and perverting the marketplace, but that doesn't matter for your business. For your business, you need the employees, and you need them now.
Anything else, MJ?
That ought to do it.
All
Other
right.
than the fact that it's going to cause it more out of our pockets because we don't have to pay them higher wages. That means we have to pay higher for the food we're buying.
Yeah, we appreciate the call, MJ. Inflation is a fact of life at this point. There's no way out of the financial debacle that we call the United States dollar, the USD, the FRN, Federal Reserve notes. There's no way out. Things are only going to get more expensive as time goes on, as I've seen through all of my life, and the rate at which this progress goes, where things get more and more expensive, will also accelerate at some point. If it accelerates enough, they will begin to call it hyperinflation. If it does reach the point of hyperinflation, if you start hearing people on the mainstream news talk about hyperinflation, that's when the collapse will happen.
So we already pay for service at many types of restaurants. We call it tipping.
Yes.
Right? Like those servers get a pittance as far as a wage goes, and then we pay their wages through tipping. Now, when it comes to fast food, there's not really any tipping, but the sort of way things are changing right now, what they're trying to do is trying to get you to use their app. They're trying so hard. They're giving up promotions and use the app and try this out, get $5 and the whole thing, right?
Yep.
Well, that app is you cutting out the person behind the counter taking your order.
Right, so you
Your
don't
order
have
just
to
shows up
Yep.
however you ordered it, and that's it. You are now the clerk. You're providing that service.
Yep.
And that's a way that they're trying to cut costs. Now, my experience is when I've used it at a restaurant chain that I like, is that I have sat there for a half an hour waiting for them to make my order that I made on the app, while customers just keep coming in, ordering and leaving. And I'm like, I should have just gone ahead and, walked in. It would have been easier.
Yep. Let's go ahead and go to David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, your government making legal decisions. The phrase arbitrary and capricious. If a judge or anybody else makes a decision that is deemed to be or proved to be arbitrary and capricious, that means it's an invalid judgment. Now, my allegations for a decade have been that the courts, in my case of my children, have been arbitrary and capricious amongst other things, which would make it invalid. But now that's a pattern in practice throughout government. Here's evidence supporting my allegation. There's a 1-minute read found in this case at KOB. Critics question science behind governor's public health order. And what the deal is that the governor, Lujan Grisham in New Mexico, closed down the state with the COVID, right? And then they were sued by a trampoline business that was closed down and going broke, having damages. Mm-hmm. And so they had a deposition. They had a deposition, which means that the state representative, Ms. Collins, was under oath being deposed, and they asked her if any scientific studies were used, in fact, if there was any science at all being used to make these decisions, whether to open or close, and she answered under oath, no, she's not aware of any science whatsoever being used, which means that it's an arbitrary and capricious decision because it's not based at all in science.
Yeah, real quick for our listeners, capricious is defined as a person or thing that's impulsive and unpredictable.
Yes. And that's what and they're exactly arbitrary and capricious in making this decision, and it's proved now because the state, through Ms. Collins, has had made an admission, a legal admission under oath in deposition in a court case that they were using no science to make these decisions regarding very scientific things like viruses. And so that supports my allegation that in my case and many other cases, our government is making decisions in an arbitrary and capricious manner and damaging us, and those decisions are invalid based on that arbitrariness.
Thanks for the call, David. We appreciate it. We are out of time, folks. Thanks for tuning in again, 7 days a week, Monday through I mean Monday through Monday, 7 days a week, 7 to 10. This has been Free Talk Live. Thanks, peace.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Questioning Authority is coming up next, live after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.